What's up, Chris? How you been, bud?
Good, good. Busy week, good day. You?
It's been it's been a week. It's been a week.
It was a week this week.
Yeah, you had to go all the way north, all the way back to two different reservations that were definitely not well planned, and kind of a lot of money that could have been used more effectively if the people that were in charge were leading it. I know it might be a sore subject, but I apologize.
No, 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 no. I like the variety. For me, it was great to go. I had never been to Poplar. I had never been to Fort Peck in that area. And so like that was my second and third reservation. I'd been on it. And for me, like just seeing how they're different. Lame deer is different from poplar is different from crow, um, and yet there are lots of similarities at the same time. So
Like we were talking that they have food deserts. They they
I think, well, everything deserts, right? Like economic deserts, job, like everything,
yeah.
climate, yeah, all of it.
I mean, it's just watching a society of people that were once warriors be segregated to a little area and told this is how you live and stripped away their identity.
And I think more than that, like hope, right? Like what did they have to hope for? Like generationally, this is it. This is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah, that's hard to. I think it's hard to realize, and then to meet life on life's terms with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, like oof, yeah.
Because this is things that we don't talk about. Like it's when I think about the Native Americans, I think of or the reservations, I think about how it is just like a petri dish full of people that have actually been having their identity stripped. And it is unique because one of the data points that we don't normally hear about, and I wasn't aware about this until I started really looking into suicide awareness, is that Native American men have the highest rates of suicide per we call it ethnicity. And the intriguing part about it is we don't really talk about that. We have
No.
pushed them to certain areas. Just need you to raise your voice a little bit, so.
Yeah, no, we don't because I think they have, as a generalization, been stigmatized, right? The uh, the drunk Indian on the reservation, as some local politicians have been caught on mic uh, calling them. Um, yeah, so that's not compelling. That's not like empathy inducing, unfortunately. And so it's like further marginalization of a marginalized people, um, and subcultures they're in.
So would you agree that trauma is usually the gateway drug to all drugs and substance abuse?
Well, yeah, trauma opens the door, right? Trauma compels one to want to escape, to numb, to do whatever in an effort to not feel that.
So with people that have been marginalized, stigmatized, and generational trauma from the Catholic churches to where they fought. They had these colonists at the time where the Europeans were only doing what they thought was right, and then you had people that were being invaded, stripped away of what they thought was their normal life, high amounts of resentment, nothing really trying to connect them besides here is a piece of land that you should be grateful for. And
That was often completely different than the land that they were used to, right? Far away from different, completely different ecosystem. And I say that having come from Oklahoma, the end of the Trail of Tears, right? That um, the government wasn't giving the indigenous population the nation's finest land
Mm.
by any stretch. Um, I've come to look at reservations as permanent refugee camps,
Hmm.
if you will. But because you have this marginalized people who are struggling to maintain an identity confined on this piece of property, and told by the government what they can and can't do. And yeah,
It's rough, man. It's
yeah. So lots of trauma, right? Lots of opportunities um, for those traumas to take hold and manifest themselves through all kinds of different signs and symptoms.
yeah. So I've known you for about 2 years now, and
Yeah.
I know that you have a what was it, a smorgasbord of trauma,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. We all do.
we all do. And really, it was excited to get you to come on and talk. Licensed professional counselor, really clinical professional counselor, I should say, and really respect your perspective because it's not just so one-sided. You're a very open-minded man, and you have had your own issues, and
Oh
but with your own issues, you have also decided to see people with similarities and not just yourself.
yeah. Yeah. We're in this together, right? Like we all have uh, a past that we bring with us when we walk through the door.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some bigger, based on experiences, some smaller based on maybe some of it's been processed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, everybody's got something, and I think it helps me to have that lens, right? To sort of view the world through that lens. Like everybody's coming to the table with something. Yours might be different than mine, and oftentimes, well, that's where I get frustrated or irritated, and I want to point fingers, or I want to create a us and them, but there's no, like, it's all us. If I'm really honest,
Yeah.
and so when I look at things from that perspective through that lens. Like, yeah, like I got no rocks in my pockets. Who am I to throw stones at anybody? Right?
Mm.
Like, yeah. Um, it's just sort of what do we gravitate toward?
Mm.
Right? Like what is our oftentimes in the business they use the phrase a drug of choice.
Mm-hmm.
But drug of choice could be shopping, it could be gambling, it could be ultra marathon running.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be anything that we use in an unhealthy way to escape to, not to distract, because I'm for distractions. I think distractions are sort of a temporary thing to
Mm-hmm.
help us get through a time and a phase until we can compile the resources to address the issue, right? But when we're perpetually just kicking the can down the road, one ultra marathon or one shopping spree or one vacation at a time, we're not, like, that's not healthy.
It's not. And like even at our phones, we have the
Oh,
dopamine all hits all the time. We have these beautiful reels that are 60 seconds, and then you're scrolling for 2 hours. You don't remember anything besides what you did, and then you all of a sudden you have this time lapse, like what's going on. Pornography, huge thing. It's a libido killer.
everything at your
Yeah,
fingertips except for presence,
connection.
except for this,
Yeah,
right? Interaction, connection, um, the opportunity to be in real life, in real time,
yeah.
in real relationship, not some Discord server friend that
Mm-hmm.
may or may not exist, right? Yeah, yeah, we're missing out on this. We're so desperate for escape that we create $1,000 distractors
Hmm.
that eat, I don't know, whatever your screen time report says every day for the week or whatever. But yeah, we're paying in so many ways, I guess is my point, right? Financially, relationally, health, like so many ways.
So I know we talked a little bit about how trauma is definitely a way to look for the drug of choice and also from escape, but not distraction, because distraction is good for that temporary disconnect to be able to refocus in a way.
Yeah, sure, and maybe compile my resources. Maybe I do need to let my emotions kind of calm down a little bit. So acting with my prefrontal cortex, my rational brain, as opposed to my reptilian brain, because I'm so emotionally charged, right?
Yeah.
Um, but again, the the onus of responsibility is on me to circle back to it and to come back to it and address it.
Bingo. I agree with you.
Yeah.
So I want to jump in with you and actually say, like, hey, let's just start off where you want to start off with a little bit about your past and then what led you into kind of the service of helping out other people. Because you have been
Sure.
a wounded healer for some time and allow you to go where you want to go.
Yeah, thanks. I, I I like that phrase, the wounded healer. Um, there's an author, old theologian. He's passed, Henry Now, and he wrote a book. Um, that I think a lot of folks get into this business because, um, the phrase "it takes one to know one,"
Mm-hmm.
almost, or like knows like. Um, or in my case, I used to tell people I had to figure out what to do with the case of lemons that I had. Um, because it was almost like that game show, Let's Make a Deal.
Mm.
Where like, hey, you can get this, or you could trade it for this. I had traded like relationships and success and like houses for really ended up being a crate of lemons. Um, but because I had just destroyed everything through my drinking, through trying to fill the holes in my life. And my drug of choice was definitely alcohol, because being in the military, like I could do that legally, and gosh, it, I would say not only was it condoned, it felt super even encouraged
Mm.
at points in my career. And then, I reached a point where I had enough rank and enough, I don't know, I guess respect or court or reputation where nobody would even say anything. Unfortunately, gosh, I wish they had. But when everyone around you is drinking like an alcoholic, it feels normal. Nobody feels like an alcoholic.
Yeah. So if you're around a bunch of people drinking, it's just normal. It's just Monday.
Or in my case, it was every Friday for a long time.
Exactly.
And a lot of Mondays or Tuesdays, Wednesdays, whatever, TDY, whatever. Like, yeah, sure.
I know the experience of waking up the next morning or kind of waking up from the night of drinking and still drunk,
Oh gosh.
running miles, all of a
Oh
sudden
man.
pooping in a bush, ripping off a sleeve off your shirt, or
Dude,
using your
I
tongue.
have more socks in the woods at Fort Bragg. Like, holy cow. And I lost them one at a time, like over months, years.
But
Yeah.
at this time, it was just another normal thing to be able to make a joke about.
Just like, oh, Chris, yeah, he never comes back to Garrison with two socks. There's always one on a tank trail somewhere. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and when we don't even really think about this, it's even though we had these gentle breadcrumbs of like, hey, this is what's actually happening. It kind of takes like a little bit more of a louder knock each
Oh
time.
my gosh. Yeah. Until the knock is a 2x4 and then a howitzer.
Yep.
Yeah, I wish I would have um, been so keen as to hear the little subtle knock, right? Like for a guy who used to conduct sills and sit and stop and listen and smell and boy, I sure missed everything for a long time.
But if when everybody that's around you in that
Oh
culture,
my gosh.
everybody's just dealing with their own types of smorgasbord and trauma.
But and I can remember my ex-wife um, being frustrated because she reached out to a couple of my buddies, like they were both, I don't know, majors, lieutenant colonels, like asking for help, like please say something to Chris, and like they wouldn't, right? Like it just wasn't the culture,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think for a lot of us, we're not comfortable, right? And we might just like talking about death or grief or dude telling a dude he might drink too much. Like what? Like we don't have those conversations. We don't say those things.
That's worse than talking politics.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and I think that's part of the culture too, and I don't think it's a good part of the culture, right? Like sometimes really caring about someone is having that awkward confrontation. It's almost like, hey, are you thinking about killing yourself?
Yeah.
Right? Like that hard of a question sometimes to get off of our tongues.
Mm.
And what's that about?
It's think about if you ask that question and the person actually says, "Yeah, now it's my responsibility to be here. I open up Pandora's box."
Sure, I gotta do something now. I'm your ranger buddy on a whole other level.
Yeah, and this is a way that intimacy between men, not the physical, but the emotional intimacy of, hey, I got you. These are the same fucking dudes that you will clear a house with.
Right, but and I'm glad you went there because when you say that, I'm thinking, yeah, it's the same emotional intimacy you have with the guys you were in combat with,
Yeah,
right? Like knowing on a level that nobody else knows that wasn't there.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
And if you decide to rip off the shroud and actually are vulnerable with that person, it's a way that you now have relationships instead of transactions
the
or
V word, the superpower.
vulnerable.
That is the superpower, and I wish that men were not socialized to view vulnerability as a
Mm,
weakness. Like to me, there is nothing that takes more courage, right? As someone who used to jump out of airplanes at 25,000 feet in the middle of the night with NVGs on and oxygen, like I feel like I can speak to courage on some level. There's nothing that takes more courage than a dude being vulnerable with another dude. But yet we have framed it as somehow a weakness. I don't know that there's anything much stronger in my opinion.
but now on the flip side is Chris tells me he's like, "Hey, I'm suicidal." That means that Chris can't have my back anymore. He has to go see the wizard.
But
And
you know what? Let's reframe the wizard, right?
yeah,
And I love that you use wizard because you know what the wizard turned out to be? A little scrawny dude like me behind a curtain just pulling on some ropes,
perfect.
right? Like the wizard isn't even all that. And I feel like today with like 988, there are so many resources that are like, okay, so hey, you know what? Let's sit together and grab that $1,000 distractor and call 988 and sit here together
Yeah,
and walk through this together. So I don't feel like the burden is yours, right? You're not taking my rock and me and throwing them on both your right. Like, let's just sit down right here and call in the 9 line, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's get 988 on the phone and bring in resources. Maybe we get transferred to the national call center, right?
Yeah.
To the crisis. Okay, cool. But let's bring in the resource so it doesn't just feel like, oh man, I got to hump out Chris and his kid.
Yeah. And you talk about 988, you know firsthand. I do that in my job, and I do
I
dry
know,
runs.
I know how you do practice runs
I do
with
dry runs.
folks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
and I use the word wizard on purpose because of that derogatory slang that we use or this no thing. It's like it's
Voodoo or magic.
but they're the ones that we actually need. Is the medicine that we need that we actually are totally denying ourselves.
Yep.
So
Because, in my opinion, I mean to cut you
yeah,
off. I feel like it's just been framed inappropriately
yeah,
for folks, and I think whatever we can do to reframe it, to appropriately frame it, like rip the ludicrous off of it,
yeah.
right?
So talked about alcohol. We talked about, hey, can somebody actually say what's up? So you dealt with your alcohol. What caused you or what helped you decide to change? What caused you to decide to change it up?
Not a desire to stop drinking ever. I can't say that it was ever, and that's me. That was my lived experience. So initially, I went to rehab, inpatient. Really, I felt under duress, coercion, threats, ultimatum, to have access to my sons, which were important to me. And I will tell you that it was ultimately my sons that got me sobered, that really got recovery to take hold. And for me, my experience was I had to want something else more than I wanted that escape.
Yeah,
Um, and and that was relationship with my sons. Um, and and I think, like anything that is new, um, it's hard until it gets traction. But I think the more traction it gets, the more success there is. Um, the easier it often gets. And now there are, I can remember sitting, man, what I loved about AA for me, for my simple brain was like, there's these little slogans, and I'm a little slogan dude, right? Like, I'm not a Gettysburg dude. I'm not like citizen in the Republic, Roosevelt talking about the man in the arena. Like, I need like 2 or 3 word slogans, right? And, that was success for me to be able to grab onto those little things, like, um you know one day at a time. Gosh, sometimes it was 5 minutes at a time,
mm,
right? um just the things that the folks inside those rooms would say, the little installation of hope, the normalizing, right? To taking the stigma out of it. There were guys who were former Washington Redskins football players, that there were physicians, multimillionaires in there, that there were dudes who slept on the park bench outside
mm.
the club, all in the same room, all with the same issue, all trying to help each other um, make it through. But there's struggles, and one of the sayings was, I don't care how far you are down the road, you're still 6 inches from the gutter,
Hmm.
right? Like, I don't care how many years of sobriety you have, like, this thing can still
Hmm.
reach out and grab you if you are not aware, if you are not intentional, if you are not vigilant to do something. to actively address your active desires to escape.
So the thing I keep thinking about, so as you know, I help out sometimes with a group over here. What is the negatives of saying no to the bottle or saying no to your escape?
I got to deal with real life. I got to deal with that pain. Um, I got to feel the pain, right? And ironically, that's the fear, and yet, holy cow, I would say that the pain of decades of drinking, probably a lot more than if I had just dealt with the actual pain, right? The not feeling whatever enough, just all the issues, all the holes that I was trying to fill and slash numb. Um, yeah, probably would have been a whole lot less pain just to get in there and do the work.
Well, I'm hearing it was a penny rich, dollar poor approach.
Oh my gosh, dude, back to rehab 10 years ago, 2015. You do this exercise where you start, it's a financial exercise where you start adding up how much your addiction has cost you. I didn't even know I made $1 million, let alone lost $1 million. That is sobering. As a retired E8, I'm like, that's a lot of money. Yeah.
But it sounds like what you were trying to do for quite some time, because I know you were a military brat.
Mm-hmm.
I know you served in the Army. You did some interesting things. And you were trading one devil for the other for a while in the culture.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
And so trauma has impacted your marriages.
Yeah.
Impacted
every relationship.
Money.
Jobs, everything.
And how was it when you started to like open up, and how did you think about how it was to be a man when you're dealing with not being able to be that protector that you have always been? And the reason I use the word protector is because I'm going to reframe it because of.
No, I kind of can we go with that?
Sure.
Because you know what? I realized when I got really honest, I needed to protect people from me. That's the point I got to.
I think I told you when I came back from Iraq my first time. I came home. I met some woman. Her name was Mooney Chawal. She was pre-med, awesome human.
Yeah.
And I pretty much stayed with her the whole time at Stony Brook University because my brand was I need to protect everybody from Mr. Hyde. I need to protect them from me.
Right.
Because if they see that I'm this monster, ooh, that means nobody's going to want to be around me.
Right. Well, I was doing really foolish things with drinking and with very little boys, driving in cars, and so I really needed to protect them from me. And the thing about recovery is, the longer folks are in recovery, the truer, the more honest their story gets. And it takes some honesty to realize that you're the one that people need to be protected from. And so I think for me, love for those little boys, and ownership. For me, recovery is ownership. That there's no, you can't have recovery without ownership. You got to own your stuff. You got to own your behavior. You got to own your holes, your gaps, your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses, all of it. Your escapes, your go-tos, your stumbles, all of it. Otherwise, you're just, I don't know, on a hamster wheel. You're not going anywhere.
No, it's just like one pedal after the other. You think we were making traction, and all of a sudden we slow down, we land on our face.
Yeah, and it's like, well, what are you even putting the effort out for?
It's this question it becomes like when you open your eyes up to the real world.
Mhm.
And when I'm saying like open your eyes, you're taking that fog off, that lens of the alcohol, and you're like, I got the shit bag right here of trauma. I got my consequences, past trauma that has created a whole new thing. And now I'm here. I'm starting to dig out some stuff. How did it feel when you started to start really, I don't want to say airing it out, but started to organizing each one of them and either making amends, being able to process the trauma. But how did that feel after you started to open your satchel?
Um, a mixed bag. To continue with the metaphor, right? Like it feels like sometimes it feels like you're taking some excuse me some rocks out, right? Your load gets a bit lighter. Um, but then some folks they're not as ready to make amends with you as you are to make amends with them,
Mm-hmm.
and it can feel like those rocks stay in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
Until I realized that I don't have to carry those rocks around.
Mm-hmm.
I can come back to them whenever that person is ready and whatever they need. Because I'm a believer that if I need to make amends to you, it's not for me to determine what those amends look like,
Mm.
right? You're the one who was impacted, right? You know the severity of the impact, and so therefore, um, I'm cool with you dictating what you need to heal from that impact.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if there are folks in my life who at some point are ready to make amends in the future, great. Um, but yeah, not everybody's ready when you're ready. And I think there is growth in the honesty and acceptance of that too, right? Because I can't I can't fix everything and I can't undo anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I sort of look at those relationships, well, like I look at the scars all over my body, right? Like, but because a scar is evidence that there was once a wound, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's healed, but there's evidence that something took place there.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times relationships can be like that too.
Yeah.
The little scars that we carry with us.
Mm. It reminds me of the book Things We Carried.
Mm,
Yep.
yeah.
And each time the list got longer and longer. And it was written by Vietnams and also then the vets coming back. But I know you and I have actually talked about this a few times for probably the last couple of months about the podcast and what I've been trying to do. And I've seen you in action of helping people, going above and beyond what they're really asking for you in your job, trying to show up for people, sometimes even catching yourself realizing that you're doing more work than the person that you're caring for. It's how,
It's an occupational hazard in this field.
so what helps drive you to want to help people? What is that like the inner dialogue or that thing that helps like keeps
Yeah,
momentum?
it's definitely an intrinsic sort of motivation, right?
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not externally motivated, and I think some people in my life wish I was, but I'm not a people pleaser. Um, I got into this because there were people who didn't give up on me when I was finally ready to get it right, to do it. There were folks there to help me, to support me, whether it was just um, through education, encouragement, whatever. Um, and I was incredibly grateful because I didn't have the tools, I didn't have the resources, I didn't have the knowledge, the skills. Um, and recovery's been a lot of that for me is learning. Um, and I'm a big fan of learning and teaching. And I think, you know, evidence that you really know something is when you can teach it, right?
Mm.
And I think for me, it's like I was the recipient of this life changing thing, right? And a thing we can frame it as support, knowledge, resources, whatever. Like this, why would I not in turn want to turn and then, you know, offer that same thing to others?
Mm.
Um, so whether, I don't know, paying it back, paying it forward, paying it side, just continuing to take care of soldiers, veterans, families, whatever. Um, I don't know. I just know that I was incredibly grateful. I am incredibly grateful, and I guess what I do with that gratitude, the way that I operationalize that gratitude, is just to continue to
Mm.
do, like, be a combat multiplier, right?
Mhm.
Be a force multiplier. Um, and that's my goal, right? When I work with someone, to resource them, to educate them, to give them tools and skills and resources that they can take into their home and their relationships, and then, train the trainer, right? Like, pass it on, and ideally, generationally, have healthier families. We have healthier relationships. We don't have the stigmas. We don't, like, have the dirty secrets and the family secrets and the things that we don't talk about and the things that we crush ourselves to try to hide. Um, because it's all been reframed, right?
Mhm.
Because we teach folks that no, actually, finding someone that you feel safe and comfortable with to talk about this, to bring it up, to be vulnerable with. That's courage, that's strength, that's awareness, that's the first signs of change and progress and help and recovery and,
Mm.
and, and a new life, a new way of life, a new way of living. That's a lot lighter, that's a lot more relational, that's a lot more in the present, that's a lot less distracted.
Mm.
um, yeah, how could I not want to be a part of that?
So you talk about being in the present, helping people, force multiplier, being there for people. And you mentioned the boys, which are your kids.
Mm-hmm.
How has your relationship changed since becoming sober and working
Oh my
through a lot?
gosh.
And then I'll even throw another harder one. How has your relationship with their mother have changed since you're getting sober and also
Sure. Well,
work?
that's almost easier. There's a whole lot less name calling on both sides, right? It's though we are divorced, it is a lot healthier. Um, and I know that seems like a juxtaposition, but it's really an and. We are divorced, and it's a healthier relationship for everyone. There's a lot more honesty. Like, she emailed me yesterday. We were sending each other, like, "Hey, I'm listening to this group. Hey, I'm listening." Like, it's not adversarial by any stretch. Um, I mean, there was a lot of hurt, right? A lot of damage, absolutely. Um, that can't be undone.
Mhm.
I left a lot of scars. Um, but what I can do is be a different person every day. I can show up consistently differently, better than that guy was,
Mhm.
um, to everyone in my life. I can show my sons, and I talk to them about it. That they know all about my past. Um, there's no hiding anything. There's no minimizing. It's wretched. Um, I'm honest about it
Yeah.
with them, and they know they can ask me anything. So how's my relationship with them changed? It's more focused on my relationship with them,
Hmm.
right? Like they're kids, they're 10 and 12, they're boys, they do stupid stuff. It's like in their DNA, right? But um in the past, I would have reacted the way that my father reacted, right? Like angry, you made a mess, whatever. But now when something happens, okay, something happened. My focus is on the relationship, right?
Hmm.
That thing is the thing, right? It's only as big as I make it. What the important thing is in the equation is the relationship between us, right? That thing will get fixed, cleaned up, whatever. But it's not, doesn't have to be a thing.
You told me the other day it was the you look forward to having your sons during the summer.
Oh yeah.
You look forward to this year. You bank up as much comp time as you possibly can. You think about all the gifts, or not gifts, but all the activities you can do.
Yeah. Which
How,
it's the gift of presence. It's the gift of interaction
yeah,
for me. So I love that you use the word gifts because they are gifts. Even going to the river, going to the trampoline park. Those are gifts for me.
the thing I wanted to get at was like, how is the different mindset of, say, Chris 20 years ago to now? When,
Oh gosh. So Chris, 20 years ago, I really should have been issued a marriage certificate that said U.S. Army because I was married to the Army. I put the Army before everything and everyone. Um, yeah, I believed the wrong things. I valued the wrong things. I didn't know what right looked like. And these aren't excuses. I fully own every choice that I made. Um, yeah, just not good choices.
what I'm trying to get at is draw this out of you is you look forward to last summer you went out to Banff, you went out to Glacier, you went to Canada, you were did so much cool stuff with your kids. Think about Chris, maybe say 15 years ago, saying like, "Hey, was Chris looking for that type of investment, or was he only looking for his next thing?" And when the reason I'm actually trying to draw this out of you is how, when you look at your traumas, how do you look at your addictions or your escapes, and how when you take those things away and you start to put them over here, what is the dynamics and what is the hope about it? What is the possibility of change? What it looks like, and how does that actually start to become the heaven that you want to know, and leaving the hell that you have actually got so familiar with? Because I really
Yeah.
believe a lot of times we stay with the hell we know instead of the heaven we don't.
Well, sure. I used to describe my drinking as something that when it began, I I actively chose it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of my drinking the way it was, I don't feel like I had a choice. I feel like I was an absolute slave to it, like it controlled me.
Mm.
Um, and so um, it controlled me. Like, and I can say like literally um, dictated my behaviors, where I was, when I was, and so that's not living.
Mm-mm.
That's existing. I was existing in this gorgeous row house in Old Town Alexandria, 3 blocks from the Potomac River. Um, Existing, making ridiculous money, working for the State Department, simply existing.
Mm.
Because you reach a point where you're just on autopilot, right?
Mm.
Like it's just what you do. I was at the liquor store at 10 o'clock when the shutters went up, when it opened. It was owned by a father. I didn't even have to tell him what I wanted. I put $20 on the counter. They put 2 little flasks of vodka or fists or whatever they had. I didn't even put them in my courier bag. Went back to the office. That would get me through the workday.
Mm.
That was nuts. Living, there was no hope. There was no vacations. I was the drunk on vacation. Like it didn't matter where we were. Drunk's a drunk. I How much have I missed? A lot. So that's the difference. I don't miss. Right? I'm the only dude out there at the trampoline park in his 50s jumping with his kids. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm present. I want to be there with them every interaction, every moment, every possible memory to make, every yeah, because I wasn't, and and so I have an opportunity to be, and I'm going to take advantage of that opportunity. I'm going to make the most of it.
Nice.
It's almost like there was a guy in my home group in John. John used to say, "Another day in the bonus round." Right? Because to be honest, we should have all been dead, whether it was from like DUIs or cirrhosis or whatever, or any number of factors. And so that's how John looked at his sobriety.
Mm.
Is hey, this is a day in the bonus round. Like this is a free day. I'm not even. Imagine living life with that attitude.
It's when you have those bonus days, it's like, holy shit, I actually have a chance to exist. Do I really want to squander it?
Right? Like I want to maximize this. I want to make the most of it. Right? Like I'm gonna be out the door kicking the rooster.
Mm-hmm.
Like wake up. Like let's get this thing started.
Yeah.
Let's make the most of it.
It's, oh man. And like I told you before, this is the reason I wanted to start this podcast because what I believe is that so many of us, we don't talk about the stuff. We decide to suffer in silence.
Yeah.
And I truly thought that for so long. To
Mm-hmm.
suffer in silence, no one fucking cares.
Nobody cares. They don't understand. They don't. Yeah, and just untruth, untruth, untruth.
Yeah.
Right. But again, we don't know what we don't know. Right. And it's not as if I'm fueling rational thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There ain't nothing in that vodka bottle that was going to produce a rational thought.
Mm.
And yet, that's where I went.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, holy cow.
Yeah. It's so friggin' lonely, even though you're existing around people.
Oh, yeah.
It's the hiding, the shame about it. It's like
Shame and guilt. Keep
like,
you in the dark.
it's like I'm gonna pour this out here. Nobody's going to smell it, and then I'm just gonna keep on trucking.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a crummy existence, and it doesn't have to be that way. I think that's the thing is having that courage, but that courage is predicated on that safety, right? Like there's got to be someone that I feel like, you know what, maybe I can bring this up, to this individual, and they're not gonna like moonwalk out of the room, right? Like, whoa, what? You're coming in broken and stupid, Lieutenant. Like,
Yeah.
no, like I need you to really lean in, and grab resources, right? Like, and I think that's the thing is it's not on any of us to do alone,
Yeah.
right? Like there are resources at our fingertips to reach out to help us, um, you know, buddy carry our buddy out.
Hmm.
Yeah, but we got it. We have to have that environment that feels safe enough to be vulnerable to engage. Right.
The V word.
It is, but it's so powerful. I just wish it had a different um, branding or marketing, right?
Yeah.
It's just been horribly marketed because vulnerability is amazing. It is absolutely a conduit. It links people. I don't know a much stronger bond than a shared vulnerability.
Yeah.
Um, think about the dudes who were on the receiving end of the same bullets as you. Shared vulnerability, and there's a lot of there's strength in those bonds.
Yeah.
We can replicate that without getting shot at.
Hmm. It's so I had a question, and I remember probing a bunch of different people for this question. And I asked was, how come the guys I served with my first time over there, we got so close, we were so connected, and even though years have passed by, we still care about each other, we still love each other, and even though life has created distance, we still enjoy being around. We still enjoy hearing about them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the comments or one of the feedback points I got was, it's because you guys were in a situation in time, just like how a severe traumatic event can happen. Also, a extreme vulnerability event can happen, and it can create this attitude and connection with people to be that much closer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the greater or the more intense the experience, um, the stronger the bond,
Yeah.
right? Um, and you could apply this across the board, right? Think about um, anything from a car accident to a childbirth, right? If there's some sort of thing that makes it that much more traumatic, that much more intense, um, the bonds that are forged coming out of there are that much stronger. Right? Mm-hmm. You went through that much more together, if you will. We have lots of opportunities for forging really good, strong bonds out of combat.
Yeah.
Right. By having conversations with folks, by reaching out to folks. You know what and I get, none of us like to ask for help. Mm-hmm. Right? Because that's been sold, mismarketed as a sign of weakness as well. Right. Whereas again, I would offer that it takes a ton of courage to say, hey, you got a minute? Could you give me a hand with something?
Do you remember, I don't know if I talked to you about this, but one of the things I read, well, if you want to start building a relationship with somebody and making them your friend, ask them to help you. And it sounds so weird, but it's coming from a place of vulnerability. You're believing in a person, you're giving them power.
Right. And you know what? You're also providing them an opportunity to do something to feel good about themselves, to have their little dopamine drip. flicker, it's mutually beneficial,
Yeah.
right? And think about how much you enjoy helping someone, whether it's taking them to the airport, whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Like, and yet we won't ask. We're almost intentionally robbing our friend of an opportunity to feel good,
Yeah.
right? But yet no one ever frames it that way in their mind when they are hesitating to ask, right? Nobody ever looks at it from that perspective, how good it feels to be able to help out a friend.
Yeah.
And so I think if we could even just remember that, maybe that is enough to compel us to just, hey, can I ask you for a favor, or you got a minute? Because it feels good. Everybody wins. I typically. Um, Again, we got to ask the right people.
Yeah.
Right. But I think we could do more asking.
Yeah, it's when we're closed off, we can feel really lonely. When we're connected with people, we can actually feel love and seen. It's interesting, and you're a man of a lot of wisdom.
Experience.
And, tomato, tomato. It's almost like saying Worcestershire sauce. There's like 1,000 different ways we could try to pronounce it, and
Right.
nobody could say it right. Um,
Fair.
and I really respect your views on stuff. Where I'm curious, what did you hope to give by coming on and talking? I know it was a personal favor to me, but what was it also you would like to message to give?
I think if we continue to do the same thing, we're going to get the same results. Right. And if I want different results, if I want to connect with someone, if I want something different, I got to do something different. And that may take about 10 seconds of courage. And I think all of us have 10 seconds of courage in us somewhere, right? To just be vulnerable and reach out with an ask, or be vulnerable and be honest with ourselves, right? Hey, you know what? Maybe this is the issue that everyone around me seems to say that it is. And who could I talk to about this? Who might be willing to walk alongside me with this, or help me connect with a resource, to start talking about this, because that's where the change is. That's where the hope is. That's where the difference is. That's where the colors get brighter in life, and the music gets a little snappier, and the flavors get a little more flavorful. Yeah, that's when we start living. So, I guess if I want to share something, that's it.
I appreciate it, man. I heard a line the other day. The colors have been becoming more colorful.
Boom.
And
that's good living.
Because I remember when I used to look at the world so black and white, and then having shades of gray. But working through the trauma, every started to.
Or just walking everywhere with my head down, and everything just looked like the sidewalk.
Exactly.
Right? There were no colors. There were no birds. There were no trees.
They might be making noise, but we're not listening to them.
Because everything is just all in here.
Yeah.
Right. We got to get out of here and get into here and then get out here.
So what I'm taking away from what you're saying this whole time is love and vulnerability is key
They're
to
powerful. They were powerful. They can compel us to do things we didn't think that we could do.
yeah.
They really can. Yeah. And that's what more could we ask for? Yeah.
Appreciate you, Chris.
Thanks. I appreciate you, Will.
Thanks, brother.